Hi, what's your name, darling?
My name is Susan Boyle.
Okay, Susan, where are you from?
I am from Blackburn near Bathgate, West Lothian.
It's a big town.
It's a sort of collection of, villages. I had to think there.
And how old are you, Susan?
I am 47. And that's just one side of me.
When 47-year-old Susan Boyle walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2009, absolutely nobody in that theater expected that this frumpy, unemployed church volunteer from a tiny Scottish village would deliver a performance so electrifying that it would be viewed over 100 million times online, transform her into an overnight global sensation, and prove that sometimes the most extraordinary voices come in the most unexpected packages, changing not just her life forever, but redefining what it means to chase your dreams at any age. Susan Boyle possessed an undeniable force that lay hidden beneath years of rejection, mockery, and being told she would never amount to anything. Born with mild brain damage after complications during birth, diagnosed with a learning disability that made her the target of relentless childhood bullying, and labeled as someone who simply didn't fit society's narrow definition of a star, Susan spent decades singing in her local church and dreaming of a career that everyone told her was impossible. After her mother's death in 2007, Susan withdrew completely from singing for nearly 2 years, devastated and lost, until she decided to honor her mother's memory by auditioning for Britain's Got Talent, the show her mother had loved and encouraged her to try. The cynicism she would face, the global scrutiny, the mental breakdown that would land her in a psychiatric clinic, and the redemption that would follow represent one of the most remarkable transformation stories in entertainment history. Join us as we tell you what really happened to Susan Boyle from Britain's Got Talent. The energy in the BGT audition room that April day in 2009 was thick with skepticism the moment Susan Boyle shuffled onto the stage. Dressed in a gold dress that didn't quite fit right, her hair slightly disheveled, her appearance decidedly unglamorous, this 47-year-old woman from Blackburn, West Lothian, looked nothing like what audiences expect from a potential star. The camera captured eye rolls from the audience, smirks exchanged between viewers and the judges Simon Cowell, Piers Morgan, and Amanda Holden, wearing expressions that suggested they were bracing themselves for an uncomfortable few minutes. When host's aunt and Dick asked Susan who she lived with, her response was heartbreakingly simple: "I live alone with my cat." Pebbles, the audience tittered with laughter, not kindly. Simon Cowell, never one to hide his impatience, asked Susan what her dream was. "I'm trying to be a professional singer," she declared with quiet determination. More laughter rippled through the crowd, this time openly mocking. When asked what she would be singing, Susan announced her choice: "I dreamed a dream from Les Miserables," one of musical theater's most iconic and technically demanding songs. The judges exchanged glances that clearly communicated their doubt. Amanda Holden would later describe the audience's attitude as incredibly cynical. Everyone in that room making the terrible mistake of judging this woman purely on her appearance. Piers Morgan rolled his eyes. The audience prepared for an embarrassing disaster. Susan stood alone on that massive stage, seemingly oblivious to the mockery, focused only on the dream she had carried for 47 years. Then the music began, and Susan Boyle opened her mouth to sing. The first notes that emerged were so powerful, so technically perfect, so emotional, rich, that the entire theater seemed to freeze in collective shock. The audience's cynical smirks vanished instantly, replaced by expressions of complete disbelief. Jaws dropped, eyes widened. People sat up straighter in their seats, suddenly paying attention in a way they hadn't seconds before. Susan's voice soared through that theater with the kind of professional, polish, and emotional depth that seasoned performers spend lifetimes trying to achieve. Each note was perfectly placed, her phrasing impeccable, her tone rich and warm, and absolutely breathtaking. Piers Morgan's mouth fell open, his earlier eye roll forgotten as he stared at the stage in obvious amazement. Amanda Holden's eyes filled with tears as she listened to this voice that seemed to pour directly from Susan's soul. Simon Cowell's famously skeptical expression transformed into something approaching wonder, his arms uncrossing as he leaned forward to better absorb what he was witnessing. The audience that had laughed at Susan mere moments before now began climbing to their feet, one by one, then in groups, until the entire theater stood in thunderous applause even before Susan finished the final note. People were crying openly, overwhelmed by the cognitive dissonance of having completely misjudged this woman, ashamed of the earlier mockery, and moved beyond words by the sheer power of her performance. When Susan hit the climactic final notes, the ovation was instantaneous and deafening. The judges leaped to their feet along with everyone else. Amanda Holden told Susan through tears that everyone had been incredibly cynical, but that Susan's performance was the biggest wake-up call ever. Piers Morgan admitted he was shocked, telling Susan she had an absolutely fantastic voice. Simon Cowell, the judge whose approval matters most, declared it the most extraordinary first audition he had ever heard in his 3 years on the show. All 3 judges gave Susan enthusiastic yes votes, sending her through to the next round amid another standing ovation and wild cheering. What happened next shocked everyone, including Susan herself. The YouTube video of her audition, uploaded just days after it aired on April 11th, went explosively viral in ways that nobody in 2009 had seen before. Within 72 hours, the video had accumulated nearly 2.5 million views. Within weeks, that number climbed past 100 million as the video spread across every corner of the internet and was featured on news programs. Worldwide, newspapers from China to Brazil to the Middle East carried articles about this Scottish church singer who had stunned the world. American media drew parallels to Paul Potts, the opera singer who had won BGT's first series. ABC News crowned her Britain's newest pop sensation, while their entertainment section headlined Susan as the woman who shut up Simon Cowell. The British press began calling her Subo, a nickname that would stick. Susan Boyle's first on-camera interview with journalist Richard Mooney for her local West Lothian Courier newspaper was named YouTube's most memorable video of 2009. Susan had become a genuine global phenomenon literally overnight. But the journey was far from over. And with viral fame came crushing pressure that nearly destroyed her. As Susan advanced through the competition, critics began digging into her background, discovering that this wasn't exactly the raw amateur story the show had presented. Susan had actually spent years trying to break into the music industry, sending professionally cut demos to record companies and radio competitions, entering local and national TV talent searches, and competing in singing competitions. Her demo of Cry Me a River and Killing Me Softly with His Song had been praised by local reviewers a year earlier. She had won several local singing competitions before BGT. To some cynics, this suggested that Susan's discovered talent narrative was somewhat manufactured, that she was more experienced than the show let on. The backlash grew more intense as the scrutiny increased. Tabloids began publishing unflattering photos and invasive stories about Susan's personal life. Reporters camped outside her modest council house in Scotland. Every aspect of her appearance, her mannerisms, her background became fodder for cruel commentary and analysis. The pressure mounted with each passing week as Susan prepared for her semi-final performance, the weight of global expectations crushing down on someone who had spent most of her life in quiet obscurity. Susan had always struggled with the learning disabilities that resulted from her traumatic birth when oxygen deprivation left her with mild brain damage. She had endured a childhood filled with bullying and mockery for being different. Years later, in 2012, she would receive a proper diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, finally understanding the condition she had lived with her entire life. What Britain's Got Talent didn't tell viewers was how close Susan came to completely breaking under the pressure. The woman who had seemed so confident on that audition stage was actually terrified, vulnerable, and struggling to cope with the tsunami of attention that had crashed into her quiet life. She missed her mother desperately, wishing Bridget Boyle could have lived to see this dream finally coming true. The promise Susan had made to her dying mother, that she would do something with her singing, drove her forward even as doubt and fear threatened to overwhelm her completely. Her family rallied around her, supporting her through the darkest moments of uncertainty. But the cracks were beginning to show, and the worst was yet to come. It was during the semifinals that Susan Boyle delivered the performance that would silence any remaining critics and cement her status as a legitimate vocal powerhouse. For this crucial round, Susan chose Memory from the musical Cats another Andrew Lloyd Webber classic that demands both technical precision and profound emotional depth. As she took the stage dressed elegantly in black, the pressure visible on her face, millions of viewers around the world held their collective breath. Could she possibly live up to the impossible expectations her viral audition had created? Would the pressure crush her? Or would Susan Boyle prove that her first performance was no fluke? From the opening notes, Susan commanded that stage with a confidence that seemed to grow with each passing phrase. Her interpretation of memory was hauntingly beautiful, each word infused with layers of longing and melancholy that brought audience members to tears. Her voice navigated the song's difficult melodic leaps with perfect pitch and control, the high notes soaring effortlessly while the quiet moments drew listeners in with their intimate vulnerability. This wasn't just a technical showcase. This was a woman pouring her entire soul into a 3-minute performance, channeling every rejection, every disappointment, every dream deferred into something transcendent and powerful. The judges were visibly moved. Amanda Holden wiped tears from her eyes, her voice thick with emotion as she praised Susan's remarkable ability to connect with audiences. Piers Morgan stood and applauded, declaring the performance absolutely fantastic and predicting she would make the final. Simon Cowell, his approval the ultimate validation, told Susan it was a great song choice and another stunning performance. The standing ovation came immediately, the entire audience on their feet, phones recording every moment, tears streaming down faces throughout the theater. Social media exploded with praise, Twitter trending with Susan's name and predictions that she would win the entire competition. Comment sections overflowed with declarations that this was the best performance of the season, that Susan was destined for superstardom, that her victory was inevitable. When the results came in, Susan had advanced to the finals, securing her spot among the competition's top performers. The fairy tale seemed complete. The underdog was headed to the championship round. The finals brought both Susan's greatest triumph and her most devastating defeat. Her performance of I Dreamed a Dream in the finals was magnificent, earning another standing ovation and emotional praise from the judges. But when the final votes were tallied, Susan Boyle finished as runner-up, losing to the dance group Diversity. For Susan, who had invested everything into this competition, the loss was crushing. The day after the final, overwhelmed by exhaustion and emotional devastation, Susan was admitted to the Priory, a private psychiatric clinic in London. The media frenzy reached fever pitch. Prime Minister Gordon Brown publicly wished her well. Simon Cowell offered to waive Susan's contractual obligation to participate in the BGT tour. Her family explained that she had been battered non-stop for the last 7 weeks, and it had taken its toll, but insisted her dream was very much alive. Susan left the clinic after 3 days and, showing remarkable resilience, decided to participate in 20 of the 24 dates of the BGT tour, performing to enthusiastic crowds across the UK. But the real vindication was still to come, and it would exceed even Susan's wildest dreams. In November 2009, just months after finishing second on Britain's Got Talent, Susan Boyle released her debut album, fittingly titled I Dreamed a Dream. What Happened Next rewrote music industry record books. The album debuted at #1 in the UK, becoming the best-selling debut album of all time and shattering the previous record held by Leona Lewis. It sold over 3.1 million copies in the United States alone, making it the second best-selling album of 2009. Globally, the album would go on to sell over 10 million copies, becoming one of the best-selling albums of the 21st century. Susan had lost the BGT competition, but she had won something far more valuable: a genuine international recording career. The accolades kept coming. In 2010, Time magazine voted Susan the 7th most influential person in the world. She performed for Pope Benedict XVI during his tour of Britain. Her television special I Dreamed a Dream, the Susan Boyle story, drew 10 million viewers in the UK and became the TV Guide Network's highest-rated television special in American history. She collaborated with musical theater legend Elaine Paige, fulfilling another lifelong dream. Her second album, The Gift, released in 2010, also debuted at #1. By 2011, Susan made UK music history by becoming the first female artist to achieve 3 successive albums, debuting at #1 in less than 2 years. The albums kept coming: Someone to Watch Over Me, Standing Ovation, Home for Christmas, Hope, A Wonderful World, and the compilation album 10 celebrating her first decade in music. Susan returned to the Got Talent world in 2019, competing on America's Got Talent, The Champions, where she received a golden buzzer from Judge Mel B after performing Wild Horses, though she didn't finish in the top 5 of that competition. Susan had already proven she had nothing left to prove. By 2021, she had sold over 25 million records worldwide, earned 128 platinum and gold certifications across 40 countries, received 2 Grammy nominations, won a World Music Award, and set 3 Guinness World Records, including being the oldest artist to reach #1 with a debut album. Today in 2025, at 64 years old, Susan Boyle continues to defy expectations and inspire millions. After suffering a stroke in April 2022 that left her unable to speak or sing properly, many feared her career was over. Susan disappeared from public view for nearly 2 years, working tirelessly with speech therapists and vocal coaches to rebuild the abilities the stroke had stolen. The recovery was grueling. "I had a major stroke, and I've had to fight my way back," she told the Daily Mail in 2024. "It's taken me 3 years, and it's been hard. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But it's made me determined to keep going." On April 1st, 2025, Susan's 64th birthday, she shocked fans by returning to social media. After her 2-year absence, announcing she was back, definitely back, and working on exciting new projects. Then, in May 2025, Susan shared the news that brought tears to fans' eyes worldwide. She had returned to the recording studio for the first time in 6 years, something doctors had told her might never be possible again. "Today was wonderful, emotional, and everything in between," she wrote. "I made my return to the recording studio for the first time in 6 years. Something I was told I might never achieve again. But here we are, in my happy place." Susan has been spotted looking radiant at events like the Pride of Scotland Awards and Wimbledon. Her transformation evident not just in her appearance, but in her renewed confidence and joy. She switched her hair to bright blonde, attended award shows, and shared updates of herself grilling, hitting the studio, and living her best life. She's working on new music projects in 2025 and will reportedly sing the theme song for an upcoming Rupert Everett film. Despite her estimated net worth of £22 million, approximately $29.5 million, Susan still lives in her childhood home in Blackburn, West Lothian, the modest ex-council house she purchased for just £111,000. She never married, though she dated an American doctor briefly in her 50s. And has no children, though she once said she'd consider fostering. Susan has been remarkably open about her struggles with Asperger's syndrome, type 2 diabetes, depression, and the stroke that nearly ended her career. She uses her platform to raise awareness about mental health and learning disabilities, helping others feel less alone in their battles. Her message to aspiring performers remains consistent. It's never too late to chase your dreams. Talent has no age limit, and perseverance can overcome any obstacle. Susan Boyle proved that talent combined with determination can overcome any obstacle, any mockery, any rejection. She took the judges' 3 yes votes and that viral audition video and transformed them into one of the most successful music careers of the 21st century. From a church volunteer living alone with her cat to a global icon who has sold 25 million records and inspired millions worldwide, Susan's journey embodies the power of believing in yourself even when nobody else does. She stands as living proof that dreams really can come true at any age, that you should never judge a book by its cover, and that the most extraordinary voices sometimes come from the most unexpected places. What do you think about Susan Boyle's incredible journey from church singer to global phenomenon? Let us know in the comments below. Which talent show contestant should we cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. As for Susan Boyle, her story is far from over, and as she returns to the recording studio in 2025, we can't wait to see what